we're back. What did I do yesterday? Yesterday I sprayed the lacquer, well, the nitro-cellulose onto the headstock of the guitar. So you can see it's got quite a nice shine. If I bring it in close, can you see it's got some pits and divots and things. So I'm going to try sanding it out with 2000 grit wet dry sandpaper, soaked in some water alongside a little bit of fairy liquid or whatever off-brand washing up liquid we've got. So just that's been sat there for a little while, just soaking. That's 2000 grit sandpaper, so it's starting to curl up now. I've got old t-shirt for drying my hands and for just making sure the water doesn't get too far, the water doesn't get everywhere. So my concern is that the neck and the sides and the back of the headstock are still just water-based stain. So if we end up dripping too much water around, the frog tape that I've got on the side here may not keep it all away. We can end up with runs and streaks in that. So maybe I've done this the wrong way around. That's what we're thinking, potentially, that I've done this the wrong way around. So I'm going to try and be as careful as I can, with the wet dry, not too wet. Don't just go splashing water everywhere. We'll see where we end up, and maybe we'll learn. Yeah, well, I'm sure we'll learn something about the order in which we do things. Maybe I should have done the headstock front, the front face of the headstock first, and then follow that with staining the back and sides, because I guess the nitro-cellulose paint will resist the stain much better than the stain will resist the water we use to do the sort of sanding of the headstock. So let's give it a go. There's just a few little spots where you can see the grain through it, which I'm not too worried about. I just want to take some of the bigger divots out. This is 4 coats applied within about 2 hours. So giving about half an hour or so in between each. I didn't try touching it yesterday to see how dry it was, and it's touch dry today. So yeah, let's give this a go and we'll see. I'm going to leave everything stuffed in. There's masking tape. Oh, sorry, there's paper stuffed in the tuner holes and the truss rod access point. But so I'm gonna, and I coated off where the nut is going to sit, because I felt it was better to keep that the original the clean wood rather than trying to use adhesive to stick it to the lacquer. Or the paint. So yeah, here we go then. We'll give this a little sand down. We'll see whether we get anything. If not, well, we'll see whether we sand through and we end up redoing. I don't know. We'll find out what we find. But I'm using all these I'm trying to pinpoint techniques that I will need when I come to build the big guitar. The one entirely from scratch. I apologise if you just heard my stomach rumbling. I should have had breakfast. I realise I should have had breakfast. Just coffee for me at the moment. So yeah, I'm trying to use the techniques that I will need. So I'm not really, this is a toy guitar. It'd be nice if it comes out nice, and I'm really happy with how it's going so far, but I'm not going to be crying myself to sleep if I completely screw it up. Whereas when it comes to doing the first big guitars, the goal for the year is to do a guitar from scratch. We're talking blocks of wood, neck, fretboard, I'm going to have to do the lot. So if I mess that one up, the wood will probably be more expensive than basswood and a maple neck. So yeah, we'll give this a go, and I'm hoping to learn all the things that people learn on their first few guitars. I'm trying to learn them on kits. So yeah, let's give this a go. So as I say, I've got some wet dry sandpaper, 2000 grit. I'm going to try and get as much of the water off as possible. I've got a little bit of just kitchen towel type stuff here, so I want to just try and get as much as I can off it, give it a dab. And yeah, we'll go for this and we'll see where we end up. So yeah, I've taken some pictures of the finish beforehand, just so that you people can see. I tried to get pictures, with a proper camera, so try and capture the amount of shine there was on it. And it looks really nice. And so I was reading yesterday that apparently this one I'm referring to it as lacquer. I don't know who I should be, but it seemed people are saying that nitro-cellulose is basically tinted lacquer. So you could leave it as the final finish and not put a clear coat over the top, which I was surprised about because I thought it was just paint, but there we go. So yeah, I'm just trying to work out whether I'm making any difference and if I'm doing good stuff. I've got to be careful at the edges. Let's give that a little dip in some wet Bit of water there. There's definitely stuff moving because I've got, you know, dirt on the, I say dirt, black paint on the paper, and that's rubbing off. So yeah, the guitar that's going to be the big one is going to be a solid colour. It may be, yeah, it's going to be a Fender style. I'm trying to keep it as much of a secret as possible, but it's going to be a Fender style guitar, solid colour. So yeah, probably out and actually need to do the headstock like this, but it's going to need finishing on the body, so it's always handy to know these things, to have had a go at these techniques. And this is, I mean, the plan is to put a water slide headstock decal on here. So there's still going to be a layer of clear lacquer that goes over the top. So I'm not going to just leave this as the finish. So yeah, I think I've cut this paper too wide, haven't I? Yeah. So that's not going to, you know, that's not going to be the case. I'm not going to have. This is not going to be the finished headstock. So I think it should be okay to leave it with a few, you know, a few little divots and things, because it's not going to end up having. Yeah, it's not going to end up. It's got a little bit more to go on top. Hopefully that will fill the gaps. But again, it's just something we see. So when I did it last, you know, the Les Paul was an oil finish, which I think I will avoid this time. Although I think it said in the initial video that I was going to use an oil finish. But yeah, so let's see if I got most of those. There's a little lump there, but I think actually that lump is below the surface of the paint rather than within it. So you can still just see the grain, but that actually looks, I mean, I'm quite happy with that. I think I've removed the worst of the little specks and things. Since I was doing this yesterday, and I was running around because I left the paint can sort of unattended in the garden, and my daughter was running about, and I suddenly panicked that she was going to grab hold of it and start spraying it everywhere. And yeah, it turned out that as I ran outside with this still in my hands, the wet guitar, slightly wet. A couple of spots of rain hit the guitar, so that was brilliant. And yeah, I got a couple of bubbles in the paint as it was drying. So yeah, again, you learn these things. And I trod on my glasses as well, so you know, it's all comedy gold, I'm sure. Don't know why I didn't film it. So I'm hoping with 4 coats, they were reasonably thick coats. I'm hoping there's not going to be any run through, any sanding through going to occur here. I'm trying to be as gentle as possible, and to learn what I need to learn about, you know, wet dry sanding. And the biggest concern here is not sanding through, but actually what's going to happen to the stain on the side and back of the headstock if any of this water gets through the tune and peg holes. But I'm not going to go too hard because, as I said, there's going to be more to go on here. So let's give that a little spritz of water, try and catch it all before it goes anywhere. So we have definitely removed material. What are we getting? So there's still some pitting, presumably on the grain of the wood. This isn't really absorbing that well. Let's switch to a cotton rag. See where we need to be. Right, so it's definitely scuffed down. It's definitely scuffed less than it was before, but I think hopefully that, you know, will mean that it's ready for lacquer. It feels pretty smooth. I think maybe I can go more. Problem is I don't know how deep these sort of grain marks go, whether they go any further. Can you see the difference there? Yeah, hopefully you can see the difference there. It's much more cloudy, which is good. I mean, that's what's supposed to happen when you get the wet dry sandpaper out, from what I've seen. So let's have another little go at this and see whether we can get some more of those little divots out. And I can see some shiny spots over here, just on the corner here, where I'm trying to avoid scuffing it too much because I know it's thin around the corners. I tried to overlap the tape so that it would the black would kind of run over the edge slightly into the brown, onto the top of the brown, rather than making sure they left a gap. And then the headstock was completely uncovered anyway, so any brown would have moved over. Hopefully the two have overlapped, and I think the idea was that I favoured the black over the brown on the sides, so it's got a slightly stronger finish. Where you knock it, it's got a slightly stronger and thicker finish, where you're most likely to hammer the guitar into stuff in the course of using it. So let's have a look at this. So yeah, just trying to be as gentle as possible. I don't want to cause too much trouble here, but yeah, the trouble will be on the back and the sides, I think. What's that? That sounded like something being dragged across the surface. We'll hold fire there for a minute. How are we doing? Yeah, I think we're getting there. I think we are making improvements. So I think this is a stage that I didn't do with the Les Paul. I don't remember doing a wet dry sanding of the paint. I think I just applied it. I don't think I did many more than, I don't think it was more than 2 coats either. I didn't really pay much attention to the headstock. And it came out kind of, as you would expect. It was a little bit lumpy under the oil. But I'm hoping that this time we can get it, even if we get it kind of smooth, a nice smooth finish where the decal applies, so up here. At least the decal might look flat, and then I've got to just build up lacquer around it, because you can still see on the Les Paul, you can see ridges where the decal was put in. So fingers crossed we can get a slightly better result this time. It'll show, some learning has occurred since I did that one. So how are we looking? I'll just give this a little bit more, and then we'll wash off and see where we're at. Oh, and I got some good news yesterday. I had my first subscriber. So I've had a few views, and someone has finally decided to subscribe to the channel. So that's really great. Thank you very much. Hopefully you know who you are, first subscriber. I won't mention you by name. I don't know whether there's a list of subscribers out there on YouTube's APIs, but yeah, thank you very much for subscribing. And if I think everybody does it. I haven't done it yet, but if you've got any comments or suggestions about things that are boring, things that I'm doing wrong, things that I'm doing right, make them in the comments section, because I really want to hear feedback on how this is going, how you think this is going, as a, not just as the build, but as the channel. So if you whether you like what I'm doing, whether it's boring, this angle, that angle, just have changed the angle today. I'm on the other side of the camera's on the other side of me today. Spice it up. I think it was better for the headstock. But yeah, so if there's any suggestions about what we're doing, feel free to make them. I would love to hear from people who are interested in finishing guitars, making guitars. Yeah. So yes, thank you very much for your support. It's lovely to know that people are actually watching these videos. I'm amazed that they show up in people's feeds, and it's not just me shouting into the void. Yeah. Okay, I think we are getting to where we need to be to have another little look at it. I'm quite liking that. That's quite. Let's put that back in there. Ooh, get the gunk off. How are we looking? Have we got more of the grain marks out, or are we not getting anywhere? No, they're definitely going. They're definitely going. This is good. This is going well. So let me bring. Again, I'm not sure. Yeah, I should really be taking photos as I go, shouldn't I? Let's bring this up. So it's getting to be nearly flat. Whether you can see that, I don't know. Oh, there we go. Yeah, so hopefully you can see it. It's just cloudy. It's getting better. So yeah, we'll keep going. I'll keep having another go at that. It's only in the middle, so I need to just focus on along here, up here. I can see reflections of little gaps. I think I might even get to this little divot here. There's a little shiny spot there, and one over here. I think that one looks like it's in the paint. you can't see that from here, can you? There's one there that looks like it's in the paint, you'll have to take my word for it. This one looks a bit deeper. That one I think I might just have to accept. It's near the truss rod cover, maybe it'll cover it, but I think that one is too deep, and that one looks like it might be in the wood rather than in the paint itself. So yeah, let's focus on those areas and try and just get the last of this done. So I'm trying not to apply too much pressure. I'm just sort of sweeping. I'm kind of laying on the laying my hand on the paper. I don't want to push too hard, especially around the edges. I've heard terrible stories of the edges. I mean, when I was sanding the stain, you touch the edge and all of a sudden it's the color, the natural color of the wood, before you've barely done anything. So yeah, try not to apply too much pressure. They're just going round and round and round, which I think is what I've seen people do. But again, if it's wrong, comment on it. Let me know. I'm trying to copy all the people that I have seen do this sort of stuff. Maybe I'm misremembering what they do. The most nervous moment is going to be removing all this tape. Am I going to end up peeling? I've used frog tape, which is supposed to be really low tack. Hopefully isn't going to remove all the finish as well. Let's dip that back in there, give that a bit of a clean up. How are we looking? We are getting there. We are definitely getting there. Okay. Where are we at? Feels nice and smooth now. Yeah, there's just a few more. I think we're getting there. I think it's just keep going. I'm not focusing enough on this section here, by the look of things. So I need to avoid the middle. The middle's obviously an easy place to do. Do up there, and do in between these tuners, and then this back bit. I think I'm not going to get much from there. I think that's just too close to the edge, and the wood was all kind of, I don't know where they filed the flat bit for the nut out of the top of the headstock. It's quite pock-marked there, so I'm not going to worry too much about that. That's I think I'm about to sand so much off the headstock to make that one work. So let's get this last little bit. Try and avoid the middle. It's a bit worrying, some of the frog tape is peeling up here as the water's getting under it, so I may end up with a little repair job on this stain, and then I will have learnt that I was supposed to do this first. I don't know whether the other two builds are really... What's that a lump of? It's a lump of something there. Oh, is that a bit of paper? Hopefully it's a bit of paper. Oh, it's a bit of the, yes, a bit of the paper from inside the one of the holes that I've filled with paper. So that's all right. That was a chunk of the paint and come off. Right. Okay. Let's clean this up and give this another look. See where we're at. I think the edges are looking okay. Oh, there's a couple of spots there where I think I've gone through, but I think that's the kind of thing that I can just dab a Sharpie on and no one will ever know, except all the people who've watched this video. So let's have a look. Just try that up so I can see what's going on. That's nearly there, isn't it? Nearly there. Still a bit round here that needs doing. bit more water. Always seems kind of counterintuitive that you get this lovely shiny finish with the spray can, and then you take a load of sandpaper to it, and you're you suddenly make it all cloudy. But you have to believe that it's going to come good in the end. Like I did the Les Paul, you have a sort of a finish of true oil, and right, okay, let's scuff it back, sand it, reapply it. Seems bonkers, but that's the way it works. So I'm told. It's getting a little bit dry. So I'm now just waiting for the lacquer, the waterborne lacquer to arrive. So I think in the meantime, what have I got to do? I don't know whether to attempt the fret leveling and dressing now, or whether to do that when it's finished. I think the guitar's just about to be set up. I suppose it would probably make sense for it to all be done. So it might be a case of starting the next build, because I can start doing all of this stuff on another build. I can't remember who's next. I think it's Jazzmaster is next. Yeah, so we'll have to hold with this build for a bit. I mean, it's also going to slow down while I'm lacquering as well, because it's going to take a while for coats to dry and that sort of thing. Right, how are we looking? Get the worst of it off. Yeah, so I think that ding down here is a ding. This one up here is still there slightly, but that's looking much better. Wow, quite pleased with that. Let's just go up here, just give this a bit of a sand up here. Let's just try and see where we're at. It's right in the corner as well. Okay, that's just about gone. Wowzers, okay. Let's get up around here as well. Little shiny spot there still. Yeah, it's whether I can get that without taking out the rest of it. I don't know whether that's too deep. I think I'm getting close to the point where I'm just going to say I am happy with that, and that it's, I don't want to mess it up too much. Certainly got lots of the grey marks out of it. So it looks like the four coats were thick enough. I can see it thinning out around the edge of the tuner holes. That's cool. That would be expected. It's a little mucky around the edge here. I think it's probably just going to need a kind of a sweep sand just to smooth it off, and possibly just a little touch up in places. I think I'm going to leave that there. Let me show you what we got. So there we go. So I think that's looking pretty good. Hopefully when we apply the other lacquer, can you see the end? It's just all sort of chewed up here. Up here it looks a bit chewed up. So you know, I think I'm just going to accept that that's there, that's fine. But the rest of it's looking quite nice. So that hopefully is a good surface to apply the headstock decal to. So let's just give this a bit of fresh rag. Clean it up a little bit, make sure it's free of the fairy liquid. Other brands are available. Then I think it's time to do the terrifying task. This stuff doesn't absorb, does it? This is more of a moving stuff around. This is not absorbing at all. Right, then it's time for the terrifying task of removing the tape and seeing what I've done to the stain. Here we go. So I think we shall leave it there. Is that done, is that? Is that? Just some streaks in it. I'm wondering whether those are streaks because it's wet, or streaks because of the way I've cleaned it, or streaks because I have just gouged it somehow. Weird. Okay. Well, I can't have that. Back to wet dry sanding. Just a strange little streak appeared. Let's just give it one last run. Sticky. Okay. See how we're doing. Okay, that will do. Yep, there we go. So that'll be the finished article. I think that's reasonably good. Cool, right. Are you ready for this? This is the moment where we find out what a mess we've made of the rest of it. Finally found a use for all the packaging that Amazon sends us. That's all Amazon packing tape, packing paper. So that's good. Found a use for that. So, notice I'm avoiding the end. Let's see how well frog tape does at protecting from water. Okay, looking good so far. Let's just get that off there. Oh. Again, I know frog tape's supposed to be low tack, but I really don't want to pull the stain off or do something to it. So it's looking okay along here. Can't see anything there, but we weren't really working with this. It was up here that it was all happening. So yeah, I just need to very gently. So there's the back of the headstock. So we'll see there is some water. It looks like some water's got through. I can see wet. Oh, that might be around the corner. So that was just a piece I put across the back. Now we get to the real meat of the. And there's also whether the frog tape will just pull the finish off anyway, pull the stain off anyway. It looks like it's doing okay. So hopefully I did try and leave enough time for the stain to dry before doing this. So I think it was it was a day. It was a day for the stain to kind of get settled in the wood. Oh, there we go. Yeah, that's happened. That has happened. Okay. Well, we know what we should have done. We know what we didn't do. I think we're going to be redoing some of this. So you can see there where it must have run through. That's good. Okay, well, we predicted it was a possibility, so you can see there that it's just run a little bit. It might just be a case of going over it, giving it a bit of a rub around, moving some stain around, using that last stain that we had. That's a shame, but I think it was, is it Ben Crow talks about how being a luthier is knowing how to fix the mistakes you make. That's part of being a decent luthier, so, well, let's become a decent luthier by fixing these mistakes. Let's see what's happened over here. I mean, that's okay. Again, if we learn something about the ordering of things, something we can take away. When I put this tape on the nut, I marked the position of the new bone nut. Ooh, I'll show you there. So I marked the position of the new bone nut where it would sit. So there might be a little bit, there's a lip there, but it actually was, it could have done with a lip anyway. So that hopefully is in the right sort of place. Just peeling this off the side. The headstock looks okay. On the side, there's a little bit of stain there that's moved around. I'll show you these in a minute. So overall, could have been terrible, not ideal. We know for next time. It's easier to mask off a unfinished headstock than it is to mask off a finished one. Yeah, so that has done what we thought it would do. Now don't ruin it all at the last. Okay, so what have we got? We've got a little, let's just dry that off because that is tempting to still wet. So yeah, that would have been fine if we hadn't have wet sanded, or if the wet sanding was done. Maybe we were not careful enough, I'm not sure. But anyway, so we've got a couple of little blemishes that bring you in the movie. So blemish there, there's a blemish up here, just where the wet has got through, probably seeped through from the masking. So maybe I could have done the masking better. There's a bit there, a bit on the end here where it's clearly sort of dribbled through. Yeah, but that's okay, because it gives me an opportunity to go and sand just this little ridge there, little rough edge where the lacquer's gone in. So hopefully we can just blend it all in, and it'll be good, and we'll be away. So that'll be the next thing we do. Let's just poke. Have I got a pokey tool? Can I do this? Just pull these through. Pull these bits of. Just get the water out of the way. You see, some of these are quite wet. Oh, and then yeah, you go just touch it as well with your wet fingers, Neil. Well done. Okay, let's pull this out of here. So I'm hoping I'm not going to take chunks of the paint with me when I pull these out of here. Just got to be careful where it might be stuck to the edge. I'll need some tweezers and just pull those out. Again, this is under the truss rod cover, so that's not too much of a problem if that's a little wonky. Right, I need something to poke through with. Don't fashion a tool, go and find. Lean across, grab the end of a child pencil. Just poke those through. Poke those through, poke those through. Okay. So they've come out without too much hassle. That one wants to be stuck in a little bit. That one wants to stay. Is that one attached to the top? I think just where the lacquer or the paint has caught the paper and just held it in place. There we go. Right, okay, so yes, a few little fix-ups to do. It might be that I can do them just by damping something down and just rubbing it on here. Maybe damping down a piece of tissue and just moving this stain around, because in theory I suppose the stain is all still there, right? The same level of stain is there. It's just whether you add enough water, so much water that you don't move it around and you end up diluting it. So yeah, okay, well let's fix that. I'll get ready to fix that up and hopefully just give that a little tiny sand around the edge. I don't want to do that with wet dry paper. I want to just do that with wet paper. I just want to do that with dry. So I'm going to get some dry 2000 probably just along there, just to give it a scuff, smooth it out, because it's just a little ridge that we don't want. But yeah, that's not too bad, not too bad. And then I noticed these inlay dots are still a little brown coloured. That's fine, I'll just need to get something to just clean those up a little bit. And I think there are a couple of places where there's just a little marks on the fretboard. So hopefully with some methylated spirits, what is that mineral spirits in America? I don't know, both. Yeah, we'll just clean those up and hopefully just give the fretboard a clean, but then the fretboard will also get clean when it's finished as well. So yes, okay, well let's get ready to sort that out, but I'll stop the camera while I do that.